There is a letter that was never meant to be found, not by the press, not by the palace, not even by William. It was sealed inside a velvet pouch tucked behind a false panel in a private room at Althorpe House, the Spencer family estate in Northamptonshire where Princess Diana grew up, where she is buried, and where, according to sources close to the Spencer family, she left one final, staggering act of maternal foresight. The letter was addressed not to her sons, not to her lawyers, not to Paul Burrell, the butler she once called her rock. It was addressed by name to a woman Diana would never live to meet, a woman who, at the time of writing, was a schoolgirl in Berkshire with no idea she would one day become a princess. The envelope, according to insiders, bore a single instruction in Diana's handwriting: "For the one who loves him truly, when the time is right." And now, nearly 3 decades after Diana's death, that time has apparently arrived. Sources close to the Spencer estate are quietly confirming that the letter, long rumored in royal circles but never publicly acknowledged, has been delivered. Catherine, Princess of Wales, has read it, and those who know what it contains say it has changed everything. The story of how this letter came to exist begins in the years following Diana's divorce from Prince Charles in August 1996. Those who were close to her in that final chapter of her life describe a woman who was grieving, yes, but also thinking deeply about legacy, about the future, about the sons she adored, and the institution she feared would swallow them whole. Royal biographer Robert Jobson has written extensively about Diana's state of mind in 1996 and 1997, describing a princess who was intensely protective of William and Harry, and acutely aware that the palace machine had no interest in their emotional well-being. She had watched it happen to herself. She was determined it would not happen to them. It was in this frame of mind, according to insiders, that Diana took an action no one in the royal family anticipated. She composed a letter, not to be opened until William had found the right partner, a partner who would understand the weight of the crown without being crushed by it, a partner who would love William the man, not William the heir. And here is the detail that sources say has left palace aides genuinely stunned. Diana did not leave this letter with Burrell. She left it at Althorpe, in a part of the estate her brother Earl Spencer did not discover until a recent review of the house's private archives. A review that sources say was prompted by preparations for the estate's centenary exhibitions. When the sealed pouch was found, insiders say Earl Spencer immediately understood its significance, and within weeks, a private meeting was arranged. Catherine received the letter quietly, without ceremony, without press, without William present. And what she read, sources suggest, was not merely a message, it was a prophecy. To understand why this letter matters so profoundly, why it has sent quiet tremors through Clarence House and Windsor alike, you need to understand the extraordinary precedent that already exists for Diana's written words carrying the force of prophecy. In October 1996, just months after her divorce was finalized, Diana wrote a letter to Paul Burrell that would not be published for another 7 years. When it finally emerged in his 2003 memoir, A Royal Duty, the world was shaken. In that letter, Diana warned that she was living through the most dangerous phase of her life. She expressed fears of a staged accident. She spoke of forces she believed were aligned against her. 11 months after she wrote those words, Diana was dead. The letter that had seemed at the time of writing like the anxiety of a woman under immense pressure began to read like something altogether more unsettling. A document written with an almost eerie knowledge of what was coming. Royal commentators and Diana scholars have wrestled with this ever since. Jenny Bond, the veteran BBC royal correspondent, has noted in multiple interviews that Diana possessed an unusual quality. She saw dynamics within the royal family with a clarity that others only recognized in hindsight. Phil Dampier, one of Britain's most respected royal journalists, has similarly observed that Diana's instincts about the institution were almost always vindicated, even when dismissed at the time. And Paul Burrell himself, who has spent decades as the primary custodian of Diana's private voice, has consistently maintained that her words carried a weight that extended beyond their moment of composition. He told reporters years ago that Diana gave him certain letters with one explicit instruction: keep them safe until they are needed. That phrase, until they are needed, is one that sources close to the current situation say echoes directly in the instruction written on the envelope now in Catherine's possession. Before we go further, it is worth pausing on Althorpe itself, because the setting of this discovery is not incidental. Althorpe House has been the Spencer family's ancestral seat for over 500 years. It sits in the rolling Northamptonshire countryside, surrounded by parkland, its rooms filled with centuries of portraits, furniture, and family memory. Diana grew up there after her father inherited the earldom in 1975. It was there that she developed the qualities that would later define her public life: the sensitivity, the warmth, the deep unease with inherited hierarchy that made her so unusual inside the institution she married into. And it is there that she is buried, on a small island at the center of a lake in the grounds, a place her brother Earl Spencer chose specifically because it offered her the privacy and life she had never quite been afforded. The island is not open to the public. It is visible from a distance, from a path visitors can walk, but it cannot be approached. Diana rests there behind water, behind willows, behind the quiet insistence of the Spencer family that her final resting place will not become a spectacle. It is in this context, this place saturated with Diana's childhood, her death, and her protection, that the discovery of the letter takes on its full significance. The false panel, the velvet pouch, the private room. Sources describe these not as the concealment devices of someone hiding something shameful, but as the careful architecture of a woman who understood that certain things needed time, needed the right moment, needed to survive the immediate chaos of grief and institution and press scrutiny before they could be properly received. Diana had watched her own words distorted, her own intentions misread, her own love for her sons weaponized by forces with no interest in truth. She was not going to let this letter suffer the same fate. There is a further layer here that sources say cannot be ignored. In the months before her death, Diana had begun to speak privately about William's future, in terms that surprised even those closest to her. Not about succession, not about royal duty, about love, about the specific kind of woman who could survive what she could not. According to a source familiar with Diana's private conversations during that period, she was preoccupied with the idea that William would face a choice, and that the wrong choice, or the wrong influence, could cost him everything she had fought to protect in him. She had watched the institution take Charles. She had watched it take herself. She believed, with an intensity those around her found remarkable, that William's survival as a whole person depended on the woman he chose. Royal expert Hilary Fordwich, who has analyzed the Windsor family dynamic across multiple platforms, has pointed to this protective instinct as the defining characteristic of Diana's later years. She was not simply a mother who worried about her sons in the ordinary way, Fordwich has said. She was a woman who had been devoured by the crown, who understood its mechanisms from the inside, and who was determined to do whatever she could to prevent that from happening to William. The question that observers are now asking, the question that sources say Catherine herself sat with after reading the letter, is whether Diana somehow knew, even in 1997, that the woman William needed was already somewhere in the world, and whether she left a message that speaks directly to who Catherine has become. What is reportedly in this letter? Sources are being careful, deliberately so. Those with knowledge of the contents have offered only fragments, framed with the kind of protective language you use when you are handling something you consider sacred. But the picture that emerges from these fragments is striking. The letter is said to contain Diana's vision of the woman she hoped William would find. Not a physical description, not a checklist, something more interior than that. A description of qualities, of a kind of quiet strength that would not announce itself, that would not compete with the crown but would quietly hold the person wearing it. Sources say Diana wrote about resilience, specifically the kind of resilience that survives illness, pressure, and public scrutiny without becoming brittle or performative. She wrote about the importance of a woman who could love William the man, not William the symbol. And she wrote, according to one source close to the situation, something that lands with particular force in the current moment. A warning about women who enter the royal circle for reasons other than love. Women whose relationship to the crown is transactional. Women who see the palace as a platform rather than a responsibility. Royal commentator Nick Eade, who has spoken extensively about the Sussex fallout and its impact on the institution, noted recently that what has distinguished Catherine throughout the chaos of the last decade is precisely the quality Diana apparently described: an absolute prioritization of the institution over personal brand. While others sought the spotlight, Catherine consistently stepped back. While others leveraged royal access for commercial gain, Catherine channeled it entirely into service. Eade has described this as a kind of constitutional discipline that goes beyond protocol. It is, he suggests, a genuine philosophical commitment to the idea that the crown exists for the people, not for the people wearing it. Sources close to the situation say this is, word for word, the principle Diana articulated in her letter. And they say Catherine, upon reading it, wept. There is one more dimension to this story that sources are speaking about with particular care, and it concerns William. He has not yet read the letter. That detail alone has generated significant discussion among those who know about its existence. Why would Diana address a letter to Catherine rather than to her own son? Why would she instruct that it be kept from William, at least initially? Those who knew Diana in her final years offer a theory that is both psychologically acute and emotionally devastating. Diana believed William needed to find his way to the right woman on his own. She feared that if she left instructions addressed to him, if she told him what to look for, what to value, what to protect, he might follow her guidance out of duty rather than love. And duty, she knew better than anyone, was a foundation that could not sustain a marriage. She wanted William to choose Catherine, and she wanted Catherine to know, having made that choice, that she had chosen correctly, that she was seen, that she was recognized, not by the palace, not by protocol, but by the mother who had loved William before the world knew his name. Dr. Carolyn Harris, a royal historian who has written extensively on the emotional lives of British monarchs, has observed that the mother-son bond in the Windsor family has historically been one of the institution's most fraught and consequential dynamics. The Queen's relationship with Charles shaped him in ways that the institution has never fully reckoned with. Diana's relationship with William shaped him in ways that are only now becoming fully visible. In his steadiness, his emotional intelligence, his fierce protectiveness of his family. Harris has argued that Diana's legacy is not primarily architectural. It is psychological. She changed what it means to be a Windsor man. And if the letter now in Catherine's possession is what sources describe it as being, it may represent the most direct expression of that legacy yet. A mother reaching across 28 years to speak to her son's wife, to say, "I see you, and I chose you too." The reaction inside the palace has been, by all accounts, quietly profound. Senior aides who are aware of the letter's existence have been struck, sources say, by the precision with which Diana's words map onto Catherine's journey. The illness, the recovery, the continued commitment to duty through conditions that would have driven others to retreat. One palace insider, speaking with careful anonymity, described reading a summary of the letter's contents and feeling what they called a recognizing, the sense that Diana had described not a hypothetical woman, but a specific one, years before that woman existed in any public consciousness. Consider the arc of Catherine's life through this lens, and it becomes almost impossible not to feel the resonance. She met William as a student at St. Andrews in circumstances entirely removed from the palace machine. She waited for him, through his doubts, through a well-publicized break, through years of public scrutiny that would have discouraged anyone less rooted in their own sense of self. She endured the media pressure of the courtship years with a composure that commentators at the time frequently underestimated, reading it as passivity rather than recognizing it as something considerably harder to maintain. Equanimity. She married into an institution that had already consumed one Princess of Wales and watched in the years that followed as the pattern threatened to repeat itself through Harry and Meghan's departure and the subsequent chaos. Through all of it, Catherine has remained, not unchanged, because no one survives these pressures unchanged, but oriented, pointed consistently toward the same fixed point, the continuity of the institution, the quiet daily discipline of service. Royal commentator Russell Myers, who has tracked the Windsor family's internal dynamics for years, has noted that the emergence of this letter at this particular moment, during Catherine's return to full public duties following her cancer treatment, carries a symbolic weight that the palace would be foolish to underestimate. The narrative of Diana's blessing landing on Catherine precisely as the Princess of Wales reasserts herself on the public stage is, Myers has suggested, one of the most potent royal stories in a generation. Paul Burrell, who has spent years as the most vocal guardian of Diana's private legacy, has not spoken publicly about this letter by name. But in a recent interview, he made a comment that sources familiar with the situation found striking in its timing. He said that Diana always believed the monarchy's survival depended not on its men, but on the women those men chose. He said she told him once, in the kitchen at Kensington Palace, that the institution was only ever one bad marriage away from collapse, and only ever one great woman away from renewal. When asked to elaborate, Burrell declined. Sources say he was not being evasive. He was being protective. The same instinct Diana instilled in him nearly 3 decades ago. What happens now? That question is occupying people at multiple levels of the royal establishment. There is the immediate question of whether the letter becomes public. And here, sources say Catherine has been clear. This is not a document for the press. It is not a document for the archive. It is personal correspondence from a mother to a daughter-in-law, and it will be treated as such. There will be no excerpts released, no carefully managed leak to a sympathetic journalist, no exhibition at Althorpe designed to generate headlines. Sources close to Catherine describe her attitude toward the letter as one of profound private gratitude, a gratitude she has no desire to weaponize or exhibit. There is the larger question of what the letter means for William, who has not yet read it but who, sources say, is aware of its existence. Those close to him describe a man processing something enormous with characteristic quietness. William has always been the most private of the senior royals, the one most likely to hold significant emotional weight internally before expressing it externally, if he expresses it at all. Royal body language expert Judy James, who has tracked William's public demeanor across decades, has noted that in recent months there has been a discernible shift in his bearing, a quality she describes as settled, as though something has been confirmed rather than discovered. Sources suggest the knowledge that Diana had, in some form, anticipated Catherine, that his mother had written with stunning specificity about the qualities now embodied by his wife, has given William something he has quietly needed for a very long time. Proof that the two great loves of his life were, in some ineffable way, already aligned. And then there is the question that nobody in the palace is quite willing to ask aloud, but that hangs over this entire story nonetheless. What else did Diana know? What else did she write? Paul Burrell has always maintained that the letter published in 2003 was not the only document Diana left with him for safekeeping. He has never confirmed nor denied the existence of additional correspondence. The Spencer estate at Althorpe is vast, its archives extensive, and its private rooms numerous. The discovery of one sealed letter raises inevitably the possibility of others. Sources close to the Spencer family offer no comment on that question, but they do not deny it either. The letter has not changed what Catherine does. She will continue her work, continue her appearances, continue the quiet, disciplined reassertion of royal purpose that has characterized her return to public life. She will stand beside William at the events that matter, hold the hands of the children who reach for her at hospitals and schools, and carry the title of Princess of Wales with the same understated seriousness she has always brought to it. The letter has not transformed her. If anything, sources suggest, it has simply confirmed what she already knew about herself, and given that knowledge a dimension that no living person could have provided. The blessing of the one woman who understood, from the inside, what Catherine has chosen to carry. In 1997, a mother sat down somewhere, at Althorpe, perhaps in the same rooms where she had played as a child, beside the same lake where she now rests, and wrote a letter to a woman she would never meet. She wrote about love and duty, and the quiet heroism of choosing the harder path. She wrote about William, and she wrote about the future. And she sealed that letter in a velvet pouch and hid it in a place she trusted would keep it safe until the world was ready. The world, it seems, is finally ready. And the woman Diana wrote for has finally received it. Whatever you believe about prophecy, about the mysterious ways that love persists across time, this much is certain. Diana saw something, and what she saw, by all accounts, was Catherine. What do you think? Does this letter change how you see the bond between Diana and Catherine? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story moved you the way it moved us, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. This is one of those royal stories that is far from over. There is more to come, and we will be here when it does.